Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos. Today we are going to be doing a deep V split. We're also going to be doing a peekaboo along with a textured leather look. There's a lot of things going on in this tumbler, but I know you guys got this. As always, I'll make sure to put everything I used today down in the description box below so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Starting off with our base, I went ahead and I prepped it and I primed it this metallic gold color by Rustoleum. I am just using a 20-ounce handled stainless steel tumbler today, and I am just going to be doing a basic full coverage with my chunky glitter. So as you see in there, I went ahead and I'm going to be applying a little bit more than usual for my epoxy. So I do a dab on the front, a dab on the back. The reason why I'm not giving measurements today is because I had more tumblers I had to do, so I'm just kind of visually showing you how much I apply. And that's about how much I apply when I go to do chunky glitter. Now you just really want to make sure that you don't have it all clumped up around the base of your handle there. You just want to make sure everything is nice and smooth and ready to apply that chunky glitter. The glitter I'm going to be using today is called Lemon Queen, and if you would like to purchase that, you can find that at socglitters.com if you would like to. So I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to sprinkle it with my fingers. I feel like I get it a lot more smoother this way rather than dumping it on. So I start at the bottom, I work up around the rim, and then I fill in the center. But I mainly wanted to show you guys how I do the handle. So I'm just gonna very lightly sprinkle that down onto my handle. I'm not completely filling it in. You don't need to completely fill it in as long as you get pretty much just the base kind of sprinkled with that glitter. So I went ahead and I did the bottom, and then I'm gonna come back through and do the top as well. And after my base has all been filled in with my glitter, I'm going to go ahead and just very lightly sprinkle some more glitter right over the top of that handle. So I just want you guys to be able to see how much I put down. Now, once we have everything all glittered up the way that we would like to, you just want to come in and fill in any little areas any pockets of areas that you can kind of see the base a little too much. You just want to come in and just very lightly sprinkle some more glitter down on top of that. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and take our opposite hand and we are going to push any extra glitter off the rim, and we're also going to take the time now to kind of pat it down around the handle as well. So I even take my fingers and slide it across the edge of the handle, just completely removing any glitter off the sides itself because you really don't need it there, but you definitely want to come through and just take your time and pat that glitter down, push it all back away off of I don't even know what you'd call that, the rim of the handle. Sure, the rim of the handle, there we go. And you just want to make sure that everything is nicely tapped down. But because we applied so much epoxy, you really don't have to tap down too much because that glitter is laying nice and flat for us automatically. Now, because I applied a bit more epoxy than usual, I'm going to go ahead and place it onto my turner to cure, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. Now, after that has cured, we are ready to apply our first coat of epoxy over top of our raw glitter. I did go ahead and spray it down with my 2x Ultra so that way that epoxy has something to grip onto and doesn't cause fisheyes in our epoxy as it starts to cure. I'm going to go ahead and apply about 30 to 40 milliliters of epoxy over top of this. We want it nice and smooth for our next process. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that epoxy. I'm going to place it onto my turner and I'm going to hit it up really good with my torch, popping all those little micro bubbles. And while this cures, we'll go ahead and put our decals together so that way we can move on to applying all our decals after this has cured. Okay, so we have quite a bit of decals we're working with here. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Peekaboo that we're going to be doing. It's just a basic sunflower. I cut that out, or I made it 2.5 by 2.5. There we go. And I just did a full sheet of those because it's going to be for our Peekaboo. And then for the rest of it, we're going to go ahead and cut everything out. Might as well, just save us a little bit of time. So leaves are falling, autumn is calling. I cut that out in Courier. It's just the basic, like it comes with any Cricut, anything, silhouette, I like it looks like we typed it up. There we go. I kind of like that. And then the leaves, I just did, what did I do those in? A little over 2 and a little over 3. So you just want to cut out about 4 of those. And I used a textured metallic vinyl for that. Now for the pinstriping, I'm going to do one size in 11.5 by 0.07. That is the perfect size. You can even use the ones in between. It like fits perfectly. They're all even. So you could just cut up the side and use everything in between. You won't be wasting anything. And then for the black stripe that's going to go underneath, all I did was apply an offset to my thinner one. And then you just want to get it as big as you would like and go ahead and apply that. But you definitely want to come back through and you want to unlock the offset that you did. And you want to make sure that you bring down the width to 11.5 or it's going to want you to cut it on a bigger mat and you're going to wonder why. And that's why. You need to bring it back down to 11.5. There we go. And you're going to get that cut out in a black vinyl along with the leaves. The quote there is going to be cut out in a black vinyl. The sunflower is going to be cut out in whatever you want because it's just going to be for a peekaboo. And then the thinner pinstripe and the leaves will be in a champagne metallic textured vinyl. All right, now on to the fun stuff. We're going to go ahead and get started on that deep V. So to get us started, we are going to use this template by a crafty veteran. She has all these really awesome templates and she happens to have a deep V template. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to trace around it and I'm going to cut out on a piece of paper, providing me a template that I can wrap around my tumbler. But you could utilize the center of these templates. You could cut out vinyls with these templates. You could create all kinds of really cool designs with these templates. So I definitely recommend these templates. They are so fun and easy to work with. I definitely have a lot more ideas to go along with this. So after I have my more flexible paper template all cut out, I'm going to head and put the lid back on the tumbler itself to help me figure out where I should place that deep V. So I'm just going to utilize that area there, that little tab there, so that way I know that's where I want the center. So now I'm just going to take a little piece of painter's tape and I'm going to take my template and I'm going to get that lined up straight underneath my lid there. And I am just kind of looking at the point at the bottom. I just want to make sure that that point doesn't shift off to one side or the other when I go to tape it down. And once you have that secured to your tumbler, you're going to go ahead and take a dry erase marker and you're going to trace along the outside of your template. And now we are ready to start taping. Now using a flexible tape, I like to use electrical tape for stuff like this, we are going to focus on the inside of that line that we drew. The reason why we're focusing on the inside of that line is because that's the area that's going to be masked off and stay the glittery color after everything is all spray painted. So I'm just going to go ahead and line my tape down right on the inside of our lines. Now once you have your tape applied, you're just going to take your X-Acto knife and you'll be able to see where the tape stacks on top of each other. I'm going to show you a little bit closer here in a second, but that's exactly where you want to cut to give us that nice point at the bottom of our template there. So right there, see how the tape overlaps? You're just going to cut right along that. And then once you have all that trimmed back, you're gonna go ahead and fill in the center with some more masking. So I just use more painter's tape to fill in the center. I'm gonna come through and rub off the marker line that we put onto the tumbler itself, so that way that's not there anymore. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tape up the handle. Now, after everything's all taped up, this is the area that we're going to be applying our sunflowers. And of course, you can apply as many sunflowers as you would like. I just tried to make sure that I had about the same distance in between each sunflower. So I did the weird areas first. So like up underneath the handle and up around the top there is where I tried to start first and then kind of branch off from there. And I did kind of overlap some of my sunflowers onto the front of the deep V as well. You just want to make sure it all kind of goes together. You can even cut some in half to kind of help you out with the top or the bottom. I didn't put anything on the bottom. I just didn't want to. These were a little bit too big to go onto the bottom. So I just came through, like I see there, I just kind of filled in with a little bit of the leaves or the petals from one of the flowers. So again, just fill it up to however much you guys would like. And there we go. Now the next step is coming through and spray painting our base, or spray painting over top of all of our decals here. So the paint that I'm going to be using is Rustic Pink. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. And now it is dry. See, magic of videoing. And we're ready to move on to this textured leather look. So to help give us that textured leather look, we are just going to take a old trash bag or shopping bag, and we're just going to cut off some pieces of it because I like to come through and use clean pieces as I go, because sometimes one will get a little too gunked up with the inks and everything. So I just cut off a few pieces of that. And you just want to take your favorite brown alcohol ink. I'll put down in the description box what I used. I believe it's called Cloudy Dirt, and that's from JCG Inks. jenscraftedgems.com. There we go. That's where I got those inks. And I'm going to take a piece of my plastic here, and I'm just going to crinkle that up in my hands. The crinklier, the better. It gives it more of that texture look. And then we are going to take our inks just a little bit at a time, so a little dab, and then take our crinkled up plastic, and we want to dab up and down. You don't want it to slide off to the side or do circular motions. Straight up and down is what's going to give us that textured leather look. Now you could completely fill this up with that textured leather look, leaving none of that coloring underneath showing through. But I wanted some of this coloring to show through underneath because I wanted it to look a little bit more antique, you know, like worn and torn leather. And again, after I got going, I just kind of flip-flop between different pieces of the garbage bag there that I'd cut up to make sure that nothing was getting too gunked up. And you just want to keep that momentum of just dabbing up and down and getting everything filled in until you get it exactly the way that you would like it. All right, so this is how I ended up leaving it. I really like kind of that variation of the coloring underneath along with the leather look. I just feel like it gives it a really cool look to it. So now is the next step of peeling back all of our decals. Now I do have to say, these sunflowers were a bit tedious, but boy, is it pretty in the end. So I'm not gonna lie, the sunflowers are a bit tedious. There's a lot to take off there, but I really like how it looks in the end. And if somehow some of that alcohol ink got up underneath your decals, mine did a little bit, you're just gonna very, very carefully come through with a little bit of rubbing alcohol on the tip of a paper towel and just wipe that stuff away, and there you go, you're good to go. Now, before we add any more decals, I am going to put another coat of epoxy over top of everything. I did spray it down with my 2x Ultra. I've never had any issues with my inks and giving it a spray of this over top. Some people say that their inks change colors. I don't have that problem. Or you could let your inks sit overnight before you do this. It's, again, completely up to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and add about 10 milliliters of epoxy over top of my tumbler here. And I did add a little bit of SOC Sparkle Dust and Alfresco into my epoxy as well. A very, very small amount goes a very long ways, and it adds just the right amount of sparkle to it. So I went ahead and stirred that in. I'm going to get that applied to my tumbler here. I'm going to go ahead and let that cure, and then we're ready to move on to our next step. Now is the time after it is cured to come through and clean up our rims really good. I just come through with my knife and I trim up around, making sure there's no extra epoxy over top of the rim there. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it a good sand and then wipe it clean of any debris. The first decals I'm going to go ahead and lay down are my leaves. So we're just going to come in and fill those up, as many as you would like. And then we will come through and trim off any of that extra that's hanging over. But you just want to focus on, you don't want to fill it up too much, but you definitely want it to be noticeable. You know what I mean? So you don't want to have to cut away too much is what I'm saying. So you just want to come through and just put as many leaves as you would like in there. So I went ahead and added 3 of my leaves, and then I came through and trimmed back all the extra away, just kind of give myself a visual of if I wanted to add that last one or not. So this is just me trimming back all that extra, again, just following that line to be able to cut back the extra. And then I realized I did want to use that last leaf, so I went ahead and I actually cut it in half with my scissors, and then I placed half of it up around the rim. You just don't want it too close to your rim. I have it down just a little bit so that way it doesn't interfere with the lip up there. And then I'm going to place the bottom half of my leaf kind of towards the center. There was a gap in the center there, just kind of filling it in, making it look even. There we go, even spacing. And there we go. We have our leaves all put down, see, nice and trimmed back, and now we're ready to add the rest of it. So this font is a little bit tricky. It's one of those ones that needs to be reverse weeded. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that. Sometimes I put it onto the tumbler itself and reverse weed it that way. And sometimes I just utilize my transfer tape to do the same thing. So So I went ahead and removed the entire thing. You can see the quote cut out in the vinyls there. I went ahead and removed all of it from the back of my paper backing. And then now when it's on the transfer tape is when I'm going to take away the background that we don't need, and that should leave your quote underneath. And this is just an easy way when you have a bunch of little things that just kind of get stuck when you go to weed. This just really helps out. So I hope this helps you guys out too. And like I said, sometimes I'll actually apply the full thing to the tumbler itself, but I couldn't see where I needed to apply my quote, so that's why I'm doing it this way today. And there we go, and I'm not missing nothing. So even the little dots to the eyes are still on it and everything. So, and I'll weed the rest of it after I get it applied to the tumbler. Now, after you get that applied and you go ahead and weed the rest of the inside of your decal there, we are ready to add our pinstriping. And just starting with the black first, I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Again, just kind of lining that up right with the line that we had given ourselves with that template that we had made. And I want to show you guys how to achieve that super nice point at the very bottom that you see everybody else do. It's super simple. After you get it all lined up there, you're just going to take your X-Acto knife and straight down the center of your pinstriping, you're going to make a slice, and then you're just going to pull off that extra off to each side, and then you're going to have yourself a super pointy deep V. And again, you're going to do the same thing with that champagne textured metallic vinyl. After you get that applied over the top of the black, you're going to do the same thing, a line straight down the center, and then just pull off to each side, giving yourself a very nice polished finished look. So it's beautiful as is, but I decided to come through and add just a few little finishing details. So I did the same, or I just kind of went with the same line as on the deep V right onto the handle itself, did a piece of the black and a piece of the champagne gold, just kind of lining up with all that. Then I took some more of that champagne and added it just one more stripe onto the outside of the DV. Again, just once you get around to the bottom, doing the same thing where you do a slice straight down the middle and then pulling those tabs off to each side, giving yourself a nice pointy end there. And she is pretty much good to go. Now, before I gave it its final coat of epoxy, or final 2 coats of epoxy, I did give it a good spray of my 2x Ultra to make sure that none of my vinyls will lift, because sometimes they will lift if you're handling them too much. So I just do that as a precaution to make sure no vinyls will lift, and nothing did. But other than that, she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.